Okay, Ivan the Terrible Part 2. This is all in his latest stuff. And this is going to be interesting, I hope. Now, there was a Khan Delbot the First, who, he was obviously attacking Russia all the time. He was like, yeah. Well, this is what the Kazans were doing, and obviously Ivan was like, I defeated the Kazans, I'm going to kick your ass as well. So he went into a fight. But, strangely enough, he found that when he got there, he found himself fighting like Swedes, Poles, Lithuanians, and then Livonian Teutonic Knights. I don't know what Livonian is. I'm assuming it's French because it's Teutonic. Since Teutonicus was a French ancient Gaul god. This Livonian war lasted 24 years, and obviously, you know, as I stated in that World War I video, wars aren't cheap. And consider the fact that obviously in those days there was like sabotage, tons of problems, and all of it contributes to a big economic downfall. Because obviously he couldn't beat the Swedes, because obviously they were all brilliant and whatnot, which we'll learn about in, I think I'm going to do a Peter the Great film at one point, so we'll probably learn about the Poles and the Swedes really, I think. Obviously he failed to gain more land so he could like farm on it and whatever. And around 1560 there was like massive, like a big era of drought and famine and cows dying and, you know, and obviously the Swedes blockaded all the trade routes. They couldn't even go. I think he was trading with England at the time, and he was like, "Oh, I want to trade with you." And I think he was going to marry one of his daughters at one point, or marry someone, and he said, and they said no, and then they sent an embassy and said, "Are you already married already?" I said, "Yes, but we could sort it out." Very, very still. Obviously, because the trade routes were very close, the grain price rose by tenfold. That's quite a lot. I don't know how much grain was at the time, but it looked like quite a lot. Consider the fact that most of the people there were peasants. They were fucked royally, really. And of course, all the dreaded Black Death, or the plague, was swarming everywhere. There was tons of it. There was like 10,000 killed in Novigrad. I don't think that was. No, I think it was worse in somewhere else. Yeah, 1570 the plague killed 600 to 1,000 in Moscow daily. So imagine that, there's a population of like half of France at the time, and they're being wiped out by a bug. It's true though, diseases can topple empires. That's what they say. Well, this is another thing which troubles, because obviously the later end obviously getting worse and worse, and obviously he's slipping into paranoia even worse, and it's going a bit nutty. Well, he's going a bit mental. And obviously, one thing that contributed was his paranoia, and obviously the sense of can't trust no one, was his advisor, his most trusted friend, Andrei Kurbsky or something like that. He defected to the Lithuanians and obviously kicked his ass. And he was obviously that would have destroyed you mentally, wouldn't it? You would have think, I can't trust my most trusted man. Who the fuck can I trust now? And obviously, before his wife was the only person that was saying, you're all right, you'll be all right. I can't, you know, his. Like me and my girlfriend now, she's like my confidant. It's what I need to survive. It's like, you know, helps me with my problems. And then then you got her, and obviously the boy up and kill her. So obviously he goes right, snaps and goes, right, that's it. I'm gonna fucking kill everyone. And also at this point he obviously does. The Oprechniks become actually murderous thugs, and he often goes, murder some inhabitants for me from Leningrad. And about in 1970 they burned and pillaged the city, you know, raping women, killing them all. And there was like 60,000 murdered, but that's a speculation. The official death toll they set down was 1,500. I think that's 2,000 this time now. And here we go. This is where he gets the most evil and vile thing a father can do to his son. If anyone has seen my Facebook page, I've got a picture with, or if you've ever seen the picture, with Ivan the Terrible holding his son with blood coming out of his head, and he's like, really terrifying. I look at his eyes and just think, poor fuck. Should be on my Facebook. Check on my Facebook page. I should be able to check it. Or just go on the internet and look up Ivan the Terrible killing his son. That's what it's called. And there's two different. This is in 1581. There's two different versions of this. There's one where he wanted his son to marry a different woman because his wife he had now was obviously it was very common and very uncivilized. Yeah, she's a whore, Sam. She's a whore. And obviously he wasn't. He was like, Dad, I love my wife. Fuck you. Look, that kind of thing. It was a really big, obviously father and son fight, and obviously, yeah, Ivan obviously because he was a bit. He obviously smacked his son around the head with his staff, and obviously because it's a great big metal knob at the end of it, just crushes his skull, kills him. And then the other one is where he, I don't know what garment was. It was like a shirt. Call it a shirt. His son's wife. It was summer, and she was wearing what chemise. That's what they call it. What a chemise. I think that's call it a shirt. Like a cowl, like a shirt. And she was wearing one, and the law said you had to have, or someone said you had to have three on. And obviously he was like, ah, you bitch, stop flashing your tits and all that. Oh, he was cool like that. He was like, oh, what are you doing? Properly dressed. She smacks her one, and she obviously miscarried later on because of him smacking her. And then her husband comes in and goes, what are you doing, Dad? Kind of in a very heroic way. It would be very dramatic, but he comes in to try and save her. Ivan, obviously being a psychopath, conks him around the head with his staff and obviously kills him. So he dies the same way, and by the same person in the same place. And obviously, this could be put down as probably the one thing that destroyed his dynasty, killing his son. But I think it depends if you look at what his son afterwards did. His other one, Theodore, which I'll talk about in a bit. What he did, I think it was a bit stupid. Could be a bit of both. But on March the 18th, 1584, he died. There's two different speculations. He was died setting up a chessboard, or he died while playing chess. They're saying he died while playing chess, which I suppose really, it's where losing and he had a heart attack or something. We don't know how he died. Just suddenly up and died. But and obviously in the 50s, Stalin commissioned a movie, and after he died, no, it's in the 40s, sorry, Second World War. He commissioned a movie like Russian people must follow this crazy psychopath. But obviously he made Ivan all glorious and brilliant and amazing. And and in the 60s they had Ivan's remains unearthed and had a look at it, and they found that the bones had a massive amount of mercury in them. This, of course, they actually used evidence and found he had an arthritic condition in his leg. And obviously, for it treated, he had to have painkillers. And guess what the painkillers of the day had in them? Yep, mercury. This could have also killed him, but they also put it down to it could have been what caused his mental fits of rage. And after that, his son becomes a Tsar, and they start to fuck things up. Well, Theodore, one, he was retarded. He's like, he doesn't. If you look at his picture, he doesn't look at the paintings of him. He doesn't look it. Doesn't think he didn't have to look it to be like it. Look at Chance. They're mentally retarded. They look weird. Well, they do. And he was one of those. He was like Charles. He was like politics. What? What is this politics? I don't do politics. Oh yeah, didn't like politics at all. Very, very religious. Very pious. He was always going every day, praying and praying and praying. And he left all the tasking to his brother-in-law, which was I think it was Boris Globinov or something. It was he married his sister, and obviously Boris was like, yes, you marry my sister, I get more power, ha ha ha. And he becomes a Tsar afterwards, and obviously it started getting worse and worse. And after 12 years of marriage, his wife finally bore a daughter, but she died like 2 years later, and obviously Theodore was like, no, it will not be okay, we're dead. He kills himself. I think he kills himself. And you just think, Russia's fucked. It pretty does get screwed until, I don't know, around Peter the Great. I've only studied Peter the Great. I'm assuming it gets better then. But There you go, Ivan the Terrible. Was he really terrible? At first he wasn't. Then he kind of slipped to it. I mean, killing his son. I mean, it's been stated that a father shouldn't need to bury his son. If you go watch Lord of the Rings, that's one of the ones that says it. He says, a father shouldn't have to bury his son. But I think that's true. I don't think you should bury your kids. You shouldn't live to see your children die. That's just wrong. But obviously, tragedy befalls you. I wouldn't want to see my kids die. No, I actually wouldn't. Well, so obviously, particularly if I'm sterile at the time, wasn't like old and obviously not up for it anymore. But screwed if they die before me. I'm like, shit. Anyway, this is Ivan the Terrible, and that was Ivan the Terrible. Very, not so terrible.